If you are living in California and you're thinking it's high time that you moseyed out of the state, the big question is, where should you go? Now, for some people, you know where you should go because you have family there. A lot of times people move to be with their kids or their grandchildren. That's very, very common, in which case it doesn't really matter where they are because you're going there. But for a lot of Californians who are thinking about leaving the state, so really they could move anywhere in the entire United States. And of course, nowhere that you're going to go is going to be perfect. But I have been talking to many people over my whole entire career about where they are going and why they are going there, and I've also done a lot of research on it, and I want to share it with you because if you're watching this video, you're probably trying to figure that out too, and I have some good answers for you. So here are the top 5 states that I see people talking about when they are thinking about leaving California. Hey, before I go any further, would you do me a favor? Would you mash that subscribe button right there and subscribe to my YouTube channel? And don't forget, click that little bell to make sure that you get a notification every time I put up a brand new, fun, fact-filled video, kind of like this one. And number 1 is our arch rival, Texas. A lot of people want to go to Texas. It's famous because it has no state income tax. People really like that fact. But what a lot of people don't consider is it actually has a really high property tax. Actually, it has the 7th highest property tax in the nation. So no free lunch in Texas. So I just wanted to point that one out. And then another great state I think that people talk about moving to is Nevada. And this has no income tax either, but their property tax is actually kind of low. It's around 0.5%. I guess all of that gaming revenue really helps keep those state coffers primed so they don't have to take it so much out of your paycheck. But Nevada actually is a really great choice for many people in California, especially the Bay Area, because it is so close to the Bay Area. You can still go back to San Francisco if you need to, or anywhere in the Bay Area. Of course, you can go skiing anytime you want to in the winter. So Nevada is a really great choice for many people in California who just want to escape California, but they don't want to be too far away. Next up is Arizona. A lot of people are moving to Arizona, and I kind of get it because there are some definite bonuses there. The property tax in Arizona averages around 0.5% a year. There is no income tax in Arizona, and it's close to California. It's kind of a booming area. Obviously, we have to be concerned to a great extent, I think, with climate change in Arizona. My understanding is that temperatures there are up about 5 degrees Fahrenheit over the past 50 years, something like that. Also, their groundwater situation or their surface water situation is also, as I understand it, at least in the Phoenix metro area, certainly very dicey. But there are a lot of places in Arizona that are up in the mountains where it actually snows and there are rivers and rain, and it's not so hot. It's actually quite a mild climate. So a lot of people are exploring leaving California and moving to one of the mountainous towns in Arizona, so you might want to look into that. And of course, we have our old buddy Oregon, just one state up. It's always been a very popular place for Californians to move to. Fun fact, for many, many decades, more Oregonians moved to California than vice versa. I don't really know if that is still happening. I suspect not. I suspect we're seeing more Californians moving to Oregon these days, but it's a good choice because, again, it's very close to California if you want to get back home to visit friends or family. Not too far away. They do have a pretty thriving tech industry up there in Oregon, and they do have a lower property tax rate than is typical here in California. Now, the next of the 5, of course, is Washington State. Washington State, very, very popular place for Californians to want to move to, primarily, I think, because they do have a very thriving tech industry in Washington State. Obviously, they have Microsoft and, of course, Amazon, and Boeing used to be headquartered there. Boeing still has a lot of employees in Seattle, but yeah, there's a lot going on in Washington State, especially around Seattle, and that is why I think you see so many Californians moving there. It's also a very beautiful state. The landscape is just gorgeous, but unfortunately, the property prices in the Seattle area are very, very high. They're almost as high as they are in the Bay Area. So if you are thinking about moving to Washington, you're probably going to want to move somewhere far away from Seattle if you are looking for a lower cost of living, which, let's face it, that's the reason why most people are wanting to leave California, is because they are looking to get a lower cost of living. We do have a very high cost here in California. You know it, I know it. Things are just, generally speaking, ridiculously expensive. And so so a lot of people want to move to go somewhere where prices are lower. And all of those 5 states, the housing cost is lower in all of those states to varying degrees. But again, around Seattle, you're not going to find a lot of bargains there. But in the rural areas of Washington, which Washington is mostly rural, you'll find a lot of really great small towns. You can pick up a pretty nice home for not a lot of coin. But speaking of coin, a couple of years ago, I came across an article in the OC Register, that's the Orange County Register, by a reporter named Jonathan Lansner. And what he did was he looked at the various financial benefits or penalties of other states compared to California. So in other words, he looked at the cost of a lot of different items like food and housing and like fuel and utilities and all that kind of stuff. So he looked at all those cost of living issues, and then he compared it to the prevailing wages in the area to see which areas are better financially compared to California. And so what he found that there were actually 12 states that were worse than California in terms of cost of living, essentially. And can you guess which one was the least favorable state to move to from California from a financial perspective? Yeah, it's Hawaii, of course, right? I mean, like, who would want to go live in Hawaii anyway, right? But in his studies, he looked at all 50 states, and there was one state that was the obvious choice for people to move to from California. Would you like to know what that state is? Of course you would. And here it is. The answer is Colorado. Colorado came out on top in terms of the quality of life that you get for the money relative to California. And there are a lot of really great high-paying employers in Colorado. Actually, the pay in Colorado is just about the same as it is in the state of California. California tends to be about 10 to 20% better pay than the average state in the nation, but Colorado has that same pay with housing that is only a fraction of the cost that you have here in California. So that's what he pegged as the number one place for Californians to move to. And I just want to say that I've been to Colorado a number of times, and if you haven't been, you got to go. It's very lovely. And if I were to leave California, unthinkable, God forbid, but if I did, Colorado might be on the very, very short list. But there were some other states besides Colorado that this Jonathan Lansner guy pointed out as being a good choice for Californians wanting to leave. So you had Minnesota and New Hampshire also came in very high on the list. Then we have Illinois and Utah, Maryland, Wyoming, Kansas, and Nebraska and West Virginia. These are the ones that he figured out have the best bang for the buck relative to California. Of course, these are very uncertain times, and I think that when times are uncertain, a lot of people just stay put. I think that's a very natural instinct, and maybe they want to leave, but they're just worried. At least they know what they have. They feel safe and secure. They might not love everything about what's going on in their lives or the state in which they live. And one of those concerns, I think, that really has people freaked out, especially in Southern California after these monstrous fires that we just had, is climate change, right? So a lot of people, when they think about like leaving California, they're like, well, where can I go where I'll be safe from climate change for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And that's really hard for anybody to say. A couple of months ago or so, I came across a report called the 12th National Risk Assessment, Property Prices in Peril, and it was put out by First Street Technologies. And they looked at where climate risk really is already impacting home prices and projected to impact home prices far into the future. It was a very interesting study, and here are some of the highlights. First of all, no surprise, can you guess what is the number one most risky state from a climate perspective? Why, that would of course be Florida. That's right, especially southern Florida. I'm looking at you, Miami. Yeah, they're saying that Miami is at extreme risk due to rising sea levels, hurricanes, and extreme heat. So if you're worried about buying for the long-term investment, maybe don't look in Miami, according to First Street Technology. And number two on their places to avoid, they said, was Houston, Texas. That's right. Don't go to Houston, Texas, because they are having a lot of issues with extreme heat and hurricanes and floods. So definitely maybe not move to Houston, Texas at the very least. And can you guess the third most risky place from a climate perspective? Why, that would be right here in California, in Southern California. I'm looking at you, Los Angeles and San Diego and Orange County. Yeah, they say that the Southern California area is at extreme risk from wildfire, who would have thought, drought, and increasing insurance premiums will all work together to drive drive down property prices in Southern California. So make a note of that. And the fourth most risky place to move to, it's New Orleans. Yeah, I've never been to New Orleans. I really want to go. Hopefully I will go before it gets wiped off the map, because it says that New Orleans is a very risky place from, of course, hurricanes and sea level rise. And they don't mention it, but I do believe it is very, very hot there, and that insurance costs, I'm sure, are going to be a challenge in the New Orleans area pretty much till the rest of time. And rounding out our list of places not to move to, two more of them are in California actually as well. That would be Sacramento, and then they say the Central Valley. And obviously this is due to drought and fire and rising temperatures, rising insurance costs. But one thing is that they are saying, which is pretty eye-opening to me, is they're saying that by 2055 that Fresno will have decreased in population by nearly 50%. That's 30 years from now, not very long from now. So yeah, just something to consider. I do think it is really important to think about the climate of the place that you're going to move to, because again, that is one of the things that we really treasure and hold dear here in California, is our world famous mild climate. So when you're looking at places to move to, I think that someplace that has a good climate now and should have a good climate in the future is very, very important. So why don't you take a look at this image I have here. I got this from Compass. It is showing a map of all the $1 billion+ climate disasters in the United States in 2024. Obviously, that's only 1 year, and it does not include what happened in California in 2025. And so when you look at this picture, obviously it looks like there's not too much bad stuff happening in the West, and a lot of it happens in the Midwest and in the South down there by Florida. And again, this picture is just 1 year snapshot in time, but I think that overall you can see that the West, generally speaking, looks to be a pretty safe place from a natural disaster standpoint. And if you find some place with good enough water and a high enough elevation, I don't think you're going to have too much worries about rising sea levels or extreme heat. Look, the fact is that no two people leave California for the exact same reason, and no two people are gonna choose another place to move to for the exact same reason either. But I hope that by watching this video, you have kind of gotten an idea of some of the places that you might go and that are likely to be good, healthy, safe places to live for a long time to come. All right, well, that is all I have for this video. I hope you have enjoyed watching it and that you got something out of it. And if you did, I'm guessing, just a guess, that you might also enjoy some of these videos over here. These are some of the most popular videos here on my YouTube channel, so please do check those out. All right, thanks again for watching, and please stay tuned.